Welcome to Jets Overtime. Thanks for tuning in to our off-season update special. I'm Ethan Greenberg.
And I'm Caroline Hendershot. Tonight you'll hear from Jets General Manager Joe Douglas and head coach Robert Saleh. Plus, we're recapping the NFL annual league meeting.
But first, we have to take a look where we are right now in the NFL calendar, because just over 3 weeks ago, the NFL new league year began, free agency opened, then the annual NFL league meeting wrapped up last week. So next on the docket is the start of OTAs. For the Jets, that could be as early as April 17th. But you know everybody has their eyes, April 27th to 29th, the NFL draft in Kansas City. And that's Joe Douglas's wheelhouse. Eric Allen caught up with the Jets GM in Arizona.
How would you characterize your search for that veteran quarterback and your conversation so far with the Green Bay Packers?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's exciting time, exciting to have good players that want to be Jets. So that's a great thing and a real tribute to Coach Saleh and his staff and the Johnson family for their support. So that's a good thing in terms of, where we are. I feel like there's been productive conversation, but we're not where we need to be. But still confidence that this process is gonna play out positively.
Do you have any timetable internally in place?
No timetable. We feel good about our process, where we are, and we're just going to let that play out.
Joe, can you talk about how far you guys have come, you and Robert and this team and this organization in the last couple of years, to where now you guys are being talked about as one of the top destinations in the league?
Well, look, I'd say it's probably similar to where we are with Green Bay. We're not exactly where we need to be. The end of the season put a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and it's going to lead to a lot of motivation moving forward. But with the staff he's put in place, with his energy, his leadership, I feel like the organization is in a good place. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of hungry players coming back and ready to prove that how we finished is not going to be how we start next year.
Can you talk about some of the changes in the wide receiver room? You guys signed Allen Lazard in free agency, and then McCole Hardman Jr., of course, and then you make the deal with the Cleveland Browns, acquiring a second-round pick that sends Elijah Moore to Cleveland and a third-round pick.
Yeah, I think us bringing in Allen Lazard, just a big body, physical presence, great athlete, tremendous person, character, teammate, excellent catch radius, can make the tough contested catches, can really be a physical presence in that wide receiver room, and also adds a big play element. And then when you speak about big play elements, you got to talk about McCole. He's a dynamic playmaker, explosive playmaker, get the ball in his hands and good things happen in a variety of different ways, and a guy that can run by defenses. And so, added some dynamic playmakers to this wide receiver core. And in terms of Elijah trade, that was a tough decision to let a good young player, to trade a good young player, but ultimately felt this was the right move for our team, gave us the value we needed, and then a good opportunity for Elijah as well in Cleveland.
I want to ask you quickly about the defensive side of the ball. How key was it for you getting that deal done with Quincy Williams, keeping him off the market? And how about acquiring a veteran safety like Chuck Clark?
Yeah, I mean, bringing Quincy back is just outstanding, because to see his growth in our linebacker room over the last 2 years, and we talk about explosive, dynamic offensive weapons. I think we know what kind of explosive and dynamic defensive player that Quincy is with his hits, and it can change the momentum of games with the way that he strikes people. So bringing him back, and a great teammate and great leader that he is, and then adding Chuck Clark, who's another Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate for Baltimore, and we know what kind of person and leader he is, and what he's going to add to the culture of our locker room. And another guy that just adds the physical nature that we're looking for on defense.
Coming up, you will hear from head coach Robert Saleh, and NFL reporter Judy Battista is in studio to give us all the latest news out of the annual league meeting.
A lot of excitement on what we can be, and we just got to continue this offseason, attacking this offseason.
They're very close. I mean, you can look at when they were healthy.
It's time to win.
This was the perfect spot for me.
Excited to be in the mix, for real. I can't wait to be out there with them.
And the bright lights, the city, and really just the melting pot of culture here.
I'm really excited. I think a special season is coming.
make a change and try to, help build on what they got building already.
Gonna take a knee and win it here at MetLife Stadium.
Style that I play with, and I want to bring a work ethic and a hard-nosed mentality to this team. I'm excited to be here.
I'm a ball player. I don't classify myself as anything. If I'm asked to do it, I'm gonna go try to get it done, learn it, figure it out, and go get it done.
Just the fearless part, and really more so just sacrificing myself for the betterment of the team.
Compliment both of them guys very well. Like you said, Allen, he's a big guy. He wanted to throw it up and go get it type guys. Gary is just all around, I think, good receiver. He can catch across the middle of the field. He can, get yards after the catch. Then me is like, I kind of do a little bit of everything too, but just add that speed threat along with it.
Play a tough physical game, and everybody's been talking about wanting to establish the run, and that's our lineman's dream. And what better way than me to come here and run block?
Diving grab, sensational catch.
Oh man, I can see the team that's building. I've been watching, and I can see where we get a couple pieces and we're going to make a big jump, and I'm excited to be a part of that process and just contribute in whatever way I can.
Have as good of a front seven as anybody in the league.
They're here to have a good time, and I think that's something that I was very much looking forward to, is just be able to get around a bunch of young, energetic guys that are excited to go to work every single day.
Win the next game and let's get to the playoffs. Let's do what we got to do. And once we get in the playoffs, we're going to set up and start moving from there and do what we got to do.
Welcome back to Jets Overtime. You're watching the offseason update special. Since the start of free agency 3 weeks ago, the Jets have added 5 players and kept a handful of their own guys. Defensively speaking, headlined by former Ravens safety Chuck Clark. He was acquired via trade. Joe Douglas keeps Quincy Williams in green and white after a fantastic season with the Jets in 2022. And offensively speaking, taking a look at the receiver position specifically, Allen Lazard and McCole Hardman both find new homes in Florham Park with the Jets. Both very different players, both very skilled, though. You think about Allen Lazard, 6'5", 227. McCole Hardman has speed for days. 4.3 speed. Robert Saleh said that he plays that 4.3 speed as well. And speaking of Robert Saleh, Eric Allen caught up with the Jets head coach and talked about a number of things, including some of these new Jets additions.
You are looking refreshed.
A little bit.
Yeah?
Get some sun.
Get a couple rounds of golf.
Get a couple rounds of golf. Had a good one on Saturday.
Have you had a chance to reflect on how much progress this team has made since you were hired 2 years ago?
Maybe for a second, but this league is year to year. As much progress as we've made, and I get it. The wins haven't been what we wanted, but I do think that anyone who's watching our tape can see that the wins are about to come, but at the same time, everything can flip back to what it was 2 years ago if you take your foot off the gas and become complacent. So,
2 years ago, you come in, and you and Joe knew of each other, but really didn't know each other. But now you guys have been in the bunker together for a while, and everybody on the outside, I think, is seeing this thing being constructed. That's why there's so many people at your table nowadays. How much have you enjoyed working with him, and how much are you excited for what's ahead?
I love Joe D because he, one of the hardest things to do in this league is to operate in humility, and because this profession, especially when there's success, there's this disease of me factor that jumps in, where a lot of people are just you can go off the deep end with a mindset of wanting credit and all that stuff, and Joe just does a great job of orchestrating the way we all communicate. And you look at his staff with Rex and Nej and Sosi and all the guys that he has on his staff. We're all in unison. We disagree a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's not like we agree on everything, but I think those open and honest discussions where we can disagree without getting pissed at one another I think it's healthy, and I think it's why we've been able to have so much success over the last 2 years with bringing in the right guys.
Great seeing you again, and thank you so much for
Always.
your time. And you gave a little nugget out there that after the Hall of Fame game this year, that perhaps you'll be working with another team again. Because
Yeah, hopefully. I do. I think you can get a lot out of them, especially, if you're trying to save your guys from having to play in the preseason game. The next best thing is to have those open practices. They're a little bit more physical, and I get that part, but that's part of training camp too. You've got to callus. But if we can callus in a way where we don't subject ourselves to injury, I think it's healthy. That's why I think those scrimmage or inter-squad practices are so beneficial.
Coming up after the break, NFL Network's Judy Battista joins Caroline in studio.
Welcome back to Jets Overtime. While there were over 15 new rules, bylaws, and resolutions approved at the owners' meetings last week, the most notable ones were the permitting the use of 0 as a number, roughing the passer calls remain non-reviewable, and impermissible use of the head. But for more of an in-depth review of everything from the owners' meetings, we welcome in NFL reporter Judy Battista. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Okay, so Judy, you were at the owners' meetings. What would you say, what are some of the new rule changes that as a fan watching the games this season you should be aware of?
Well, I think the number 0, able to use the number 0, is going to be the big one that fans like, and I'm sort of curious to see how many guys opt to wear 0. It's only designated positions. It's not the big guys yet, although I was hoping for that. But, for instance, wide receivers can wear it. And I'm curious to see, I think Calvin Ridley has already claimed it, Paris Campbell, and I haven't seen too many others, but I'm sure that there are guys who wore 0 in college and maybe back in high school who are going to want that number, and that'll be fun. A lot of jersey sales in the future.
I was just about to say, I feel like it's going to be the new hot number this season. But what about for coaches and players? What is the most impactful rule that will change how they play the game?
So actually, I think it's a rule that was not approved, and that was there was a proposal by the Rams to have roughing the passer reviewable by replay, and that was voted down. If you remember early in the season, in particular last year, there were quite a few roughing the passer penalties that were maybe right on the borderline. People went nuts. It's an impactful penalty, and so there was a move to make it reviewable by replay. The competition committee was very much against this. They said, don't you remember when we made pass interference reviewable by replay, and that was a one-year disaster and it never reappeared? They equated it that. They said, listen, this is a judgment call. We don't want to replace the judgment of a replay official for the judgment of the official on the field. So it's not going to be reviewable. But I talked to Rams officials who said they'll probably bring it back next year and try again.
Do you see any of the new rules being challenging for teams to adjust to?
I think the new rule that they're calling impermissible use of the head, I think, is going to take some adjustment. This is basically an expansion of, lowering the head to hit somebody. This is you can't use any part of the head or helmet to make contact with another player. This is a culture change that they're trying to do in the name of player safety. They want to get the head out of the game. They don't want the helmet used as a weapon. And they have said, frankly, they don't think a lot of flags are going to be thrown on the fields for this because it's really hard to see this in real time, right? But they think that when they go back and look at the game film, they're probably going to fine guys for it. And what they anticipate is there'll probably be a lot of fines in the early part of the season, and that will change the behavior. Players will adjust. Whenever there is a big rule change that we think like, wow, this is going to be really hard to adjust, really what it teaches me is like these guys are such extraordinary athletes and have such amazing control of themselves and of their bodies. They can adjust to almost anything, and so I think they feel like there'll be a few fines early in the season. The message will get delivered in training camp and in OTAs. This is how you have to hit now, and that will gradually get rid of it.
Do you think it will help getting introduced as early as training camp for that adjustment for the players?
It always helps when you have a rule that goes in before OTAs even start. So when the guys come back and start practicing, the coaches can say, by the way, this is a new rule, you can't do this. And then when you're actually out there practicing, when you have the actual physical practices, you can sort of train it out of the game. That also goes with one thing we haven't mentioned, which is the use of the Guardian caps that we saw in training camp last year is going to be expanded, and they're going to be used at all practices, training camp, regular season, postseason even, where helmets are worn. So that's part of, trying to get the head out of the game.
So while you were at the owners' meetings, I know you did get to speak to Robert Saleh. What did he tell you about the 2023 Jets?
Look, they're really excited. Obviously, there's some things on the horizon that they want to get wrapped up with Aaron Rodgers. But they're excited about the guys they haven't, and they're excited about the young players that they're bringing back. I mean, obviously, when you have both rookies of the year returning, that's a really good base to be building from. And I think the feeling is if you add a veteran quarterback to what you've got, the young players, that should really accelerate the development of those players and accelerate the development of the team. So there's a lot of excitement. Woody Johnson, the owner, said he's not really the patient type. I think there's an anxiousness to get on with it, to get it done and get moving.
Awesome. Judy, thank you so much for giving us all of the information from the owners' meetings. We really appreciate it. But coming up next, you'll hear from Eric Allen with interviews from all around the league meetings.
From 57, leg it from and lands in. Good!
Are you kidding me?
Wilson at the 35-yard line. Makes a man miss at the 30. Sprints right to the 20, to the 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Garrett Wilson with a touchdown Jets. How about him? Right side 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
Thanks to Dugall Visual Solutions for putting together the story of 2022 in photos along the walls of One Jets Drive.
Yeah, I love seeing which specific photos are selected for each game. And it's fun for me, I'm sure for you as well, to relive the story of the season throughout the walls here. But now you'll hear from Eric Allen with some interviews from around the league.
One of the things that jumped out to me as far as your column last week was you said the Jets are likely to be a national team in 2023.
I know probably Jets fans have been very used to going to church, getting a bagel, getting home, and at 5 minutes to 1, turning on their game, because that's when all the games have been played, basically in the lifetime of almost every Jets fan, But that's going to change this year, and you're going to have to work on changing your schedule.
The Jets, before they just had all their quarterback situation going to the pits and the offensive line situation go to the pits because of injuries, they were there.
Oh, yeah.
Like the nucleus is there. I mean, it's a little different than Tampa Bay because they went in with all the veterans. They went out and got Gronk. They had those veteran guys on defense who are already established. The Jets are still a younger nucleus, but they've got the juice, right?
The Jets do a phenomenal job of selling what they're about because they believe in it. And I think that transparency comes across. And I think quarterbacks want to play for teams that way, that they don't feel like are full of it or selling them something that they're not truly at the core.
It's very interesting how fans of other teams see it.
Yeah.
The Dolphin fans the ones that call my show, and I got a lot of them too, they see the Jets as passing them.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they don't think New England's catching them either. So they see it in their minds. They're heading right for Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with them. Your defense is sound.
Yeah.
You got lots of things going on. If you have to give up for the picks in the 40s, you're only going to get a little bit of help from the draft.
Right.
But you're probably set to go and give it all you have up there and go punch for punch with them.
But the Jets just seem like they're ready. I mean, watching them last year when Breece Hall and those guys, that offensive line was playing, they were knocking on that door, man. I mean, they looked like a legit football team.
Thanks for tuning in to the Jets offseason update. That's all the time we have, though.
The next Jets Overtime special is April 15th, so we'll see you then.